Okay. Let's get into it. Coach Colin here, Soul Not For Sale podcast. Dan, thoughts go. Everybody in the comments probably like, what the hell did that guy just do? Dan, thoughts go. So this dude has this weird experiment where he looks at a laser. Okay, this is after DMT. He looks at a laser and he can see the code in a laser. Now, this sounds really weird, but apparently a bunch of other people have done it and they see the exact same thing. So I'm going to play Rogan actually talking about this really quick with Eddie Bravo, because Eddie Bravo actually brings it up. And then I'm going to show you somebody who is a straight-laced dude. This dude is straight-laced. This dude he knows about neuro-linguistic programming. He knows about how to persuade people to do things. He's so good at it that he does it for the government. He knows about the psychological aspects of people really, really well. This guy is not the type of guy that you could trick, especially with your words. And this guy has a wild experience, and I'm going to show you him talking about it after he's done doing the whole laser experiment. So listen to them actually talk about this, and then we'll get into that other clip.
Started shutting bank accounts down.
You're f***ing with real
like
dudes.
Across like all of North America, they were like, okay, maybe we should kind of
truckers are real dudes. They're like, hold up.
Yeah.
Hold the fuck up.
A lot of dudes who woke the fuck up because of that.
Thank God.
Yeah. Because they're so polite
We're
up
so
there.
back.
They're so nice and polite in Canada that's like
Till they're not.
Till they're not. But it's easy to kind of like, get them thinking, this is the right thing to do, eh?
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know.
Have you seen the DMT red laser light thing?
I've heard about that.
Yo.
I heard it's nuts. Have you done it? Have
No,
you seen it?
but I've seen a
No.
bunch of videos on it. Apparently if you do DMT and you shoot a red laser, I sent Jamie a video. If you shoot a red laser, you see the matrix, you see code.
Yeah.
And everybody sees the same.
Really?
Everybody. Not
Yes.
only that, but
It's
if you
real
like above the laser and you look down,
Yes.
you see layers of code.
Yes. Check this out.
Also,
Look
Chase
at this.
Hughes,
Look at
I just saw a video of him saying he saw it too.
Yeah,
He didn't
this
talk
is
about
on
it.
Chase
It's
Hughes.
the same
Is he
thing
a famous
said.
scientist or something?
No, he was just on the podcast though.
This guy was?
Yeah, he's a mind
his
control
guess.
expert that explains psyops and how
Seen it on Instagram, and I heard you and Danny talking about it. So you've done it.
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram and flew Danny to my house right away.
Like, break this down for people because it got shared amongst my group, and it's like, what the
Exactly. And that's the only question you're still going to have after you see it.
It doesn't answer any questions. It just invites a lot more.
Yeah, nothing else. There's code. Absolutely, there is code.
So the code's not like spinning there. It's like, it's literally like kind of written out static.
It's static. I can move the laser up and down and see all of the letters, but it's like three-dimensional. So I can get close to the wall. I can look down inside of the laser that way, and I can look up in the laser that way.
What's your best guess at explaining that?
I would be a fool.
Okay. We can just leave it at that.
Can't somebody
Maybe
write
it's
the
the
code
universal
down?
consciousness that we're projecting.
They just discovered
onto
this.
it.
Well, I bet some eggheads probably.
I know the
People
guy who
have-
discovered it.
People
man.
have.
Really?
I don't know him personally, but Brandon McCaffrey, one of my black belts, he knows him personally. He goes, dude, if you ever want to do your podcast, I could make, I'm like, hell yeah.
Let's pay attention to this fight.
This is a great fight.
Dude,
Gunnar Nelson has
Gunnar
a fight in
Nelson
3
kept
years.
it
That was seeing the Matrix when you're on DMT with a red laser.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Any laser?
Wild.
It's like a red laser. There's a bunch of videos on it on YouTube.
Is
But is it like a
laser, though.
specific laser? Or
I wonder
is
if
it
you could do it
like-
with a green laser.
I don't
too.
know.
Or it's just
I
like
don't
any
know.
laser?
I don't know, but there's video of a bunch of people. That's just one dude. That's like the most, all the other guys are like stoner dudes. You know what I mean? I wanted to show like this dude.
Yeah,
he
the
seemed to
actual
have
guy.
a little more
Seem to have a mortgage.
intelligence, a little
Yeah.
bit, or
No,
a little
Chase is very smart.
believability,
Yeah.
But everybody sees the same. They see the matrix, the numbers, the code. Isn't that life changing?
Did you saw that Tom Campbell interview that I did, right?
Yeah, I love that one. That was one of my favorite
that
ones.
One's nuts.
Yeah.
That one's nuts.
Yeah.
When he's explaining to you that consciousness creates reality.
You know what? I never really took the simulation theory seriously, but I always believed like Jesus is a new thing for me. Like the Shroud of Turin, I'm all in now with the Shroud of Turin. But before that, I was like, I don't know about Jesus, maybe, but I believe in God and I believe in a creator. Like whoever created this
Here we go.
is God.
Here we go.
Right?
Gunnar Nelson, Kevin Holland.
And there must be code on how God created this.
Yeah.
So that I think science, like the simulation guys, they're finding what God created. Like who else could put this simulation together but a God? Who else?
Here's the craziest theory. You know, AI is about to become sentient, and then they're going to do quantum computers with AI. What if that's how Jesus comes back? What if Jesus reemerges
And he's just
as
this voice,
a
right?
created consciousness?
And he's on an app.
Yeah,
And you
well,
can just talk to Jesus.
everywhere. By that time, it'd probably be able to communicate to your head. I mean, they've already figured out how to put signals into people's heads, put voices in people's heads. They can literally have things say things to you, or you hear voices in your head.
Yeah.
They have that technology. And if quantum computing gets attached to AI, and then it figures out how to make better versions of itself, like, what does that mean?
But isn't that similar to like MK Ultra? What we're doing to compromise people?
Well, that's
Right?
different.
How's it different though?
Because MK Ultra, they were just trying to manipulate people with acid, and they were doing all sorts of different psychedelic drugs and doing it
To
on
get 'em to
people
think
without
crazy
them knowing.
shit, though,
yeah.
right?
But also trying to get them to manipulate them so they can get
Yeah.
them to do things like
Yeah.
try to kill the president or
Yeah.
something like that.
like
which they
Manson
still
and
do.
shit. Yeah, they have to still do.
There's no way they stop doing that.
There's no
And
way.
I guarantee, if there is a conspiracy theory about that kid in Pennsylvania that tried to kill Trump,
Been saying it since
went to the
day
ground. Gunner got him down.
Hit a nice Cosoto.
Kevin's lost 4 hours last 5.
Damn,
He
he's
really
gonna put
needs
a
this
triangle
win.
on him.
Look at this.
Kevin is a black belt.
Wow, to just be able to out of nowhere just switch topics right back to the fight as you're talking about something like that, astounding. That's why Joe Rogan gets presidents elected. That right there. Now, I will just jump in. If Eddie Bravo, I actually know Eddie Bravo. And if he actually does that whole thing, I pray. He says he watches the show. You've watched the show. Eddie, please sit down with me after you do it and explain to me exactly what the whole thing was. Please. Because I would love to actually talk to somebody who's done it. I'm going to talk to the guy who actually created the whole thing, Dan Thoughts Go, Dan Goler. Is that? Yeah, I know. Effing Schwab. I know, man. I know. Usually when I'm doing episodes on this channel, because this is going to go on to my main YouTube channel, I refrain from talking about it, but everybody in the Rogan community knows effing Schwab, man. That's all you have to say. And we all get it right away. We're just like, what's going on with this guy? You know, just ridiculous. Buzz Killington. That's something Brian Callen would call him, Buzz Killington. Just doesn't get it, you know. They're all doing their research into different theories. Brendan's not doing any of the research. He's just jumping in there. You know what I mean? He's always like that. But when it comes to Eddie, I love that he brought that up. I really hope he does sit down with the guy. I'm supposed to sit down with the guy. I don't know. I'm probably going to try and do it probably next week or something like that. We have to set a date. I have to see what's good for him. And I'm going to get a whole thing. So I was talking with the guy briefly, and he was talking about the controllers. And I don't know if you know about simulation theory. It's something I've been diving into recently. And I am a Christian person, and a lot of Christians get mad when you dive into these subjects. But I also have a brain, and I can think outside the confines of anything. So I'm allowed to explore this subject for those people who don't like it. I don't want to do that substance or anything because I'm sober. And I've been sober for almost 3 years now, and I really like that life that I have because of that. So I'm not going to be doing this experiment, but I love the fact that there are people doing it, and they're exploring and seeing what this actually is. It's very weird. You know, if the simulation theory is real, it's just a mind-blowing type of thing. But here's the thing. It's funny. Eddie brings up, Jesus as he's talking about it. And for me, it actually brings me closer to believing in the whole heaven, God experience. It brings me much closer to it because somebody did have to create it. And even if it was some egghead who was like, I'm putting together the code of the world and code of the universe, that person would still be sacred to all of us. That person would still be the creator. You like how I'm able to switch. You know, I go from Harry, I go from politics, I go to this, this whole stream is we switch, we go back and forth, get your tinfoil Speedo on. But it's definitely brought me closer as I think about this whole thing. And it's also kind of put faith into myself, just to talk about a little esoteric topic there. But it's made me have a lot more faith in myself, because if you think of the simulation theory and you think of a game, right? Joe Rogan interviewed somebody named Rizwan Virk, and that's Virk. He's a game developer, and he also knows about Eastern wisdom. So he has this very interesting view of the whole simulation theory. He's written books about it. He's really into it. But they talk about it from this game standpoint. You know, Thomas Campbell, another person that was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talks about it from this very logical game standpoint. And when you think of life that way, and then you actually think of a game, well, no level that you've ever played in a game was made for you to just lose and be a loser. No game has been ever made that is made for you to just be a loser. So no matter what level you're on, when you're playing a game, you're supposed to be able to learn the lessons you need to learn, and you're supposed to be able to get past that point and keep going. And it's the same thing in life. I'm starting to notice that whatever is in front of you, it has not been put in front of you for you to lose. You are actually able to, and obviously, you know, if someone has a firearm in your face or something like that, you know, it might be a different type of thing. But I mean, the difficult challenges that we face going through life, they're not there for you to just lose. They're not there to just beat you down. They're there to actually teach you something, and they're there for you to win. You're supposed to win this whole thing, is what I'm starting to realize. And let's just jump over to, this is Dan's YouTube channel. Surprised he probably doesn't have that many views, because he doesn't seem like he's really into doing stuff. You know, he doesn't see, some people don't care about the metrics and this and that. I'm really into that stuff. But here's this guy, really squared away dude. This guy that they were just talking about, Chase Hughes, who was just on Joe Rogan's podcast. And this is him talking about his experience afterwards. And the person who's holding the camera is actually this guy. So they actually met up and did the whole thing. And this is afterwards.
So Chase is, welcome to the family.
It's good to be here. This is so bizarre. So initially I thought it would be lots of just clean, equally, perfectly spaced lines of code, like the way that I was imagining it.
Yeah.
And then looking at it, even I can see it now, some. And none of it makes any sense. And if it was a hallucination, it would move.
When you move, you mean? Like when you move, it will move with you is what you mean?
Yeah. Or it would morph, is what I mean. It could morph over time. And these are like object permanent. And I can see stuff in that direction, and I can move this way, and I can see in that direction. Like I'm looking beyond this little thing right here. And it's just weird. And it's even weirder that we can see it with our eye, you know? That there's no microscope here. There's no large hadron collider. We could just like shine a laser on a wall, and there's some.
But you have to bring your consciousness to a different state.
Yeah.
Which actually tells you something very big about what consciousness is. There's a continuum there.
Yeah.
It's not just what it is. There's like there's gradation of it.
Yeah, you get to that state, and it's just.
I think you nailed it with the saying that it's weird. I think there's something very bizarre about it. It's like you don't expect to ever see this in your lifetime.
Yeah.
It's not something you ever expect to happen to you.
Yeah. And it's not, your brain isn't ready for it. And like when I saw it, the first 10 seconds is, this is a suggestion. I've gotten primed to see this stuff. And then I saw the same characters that you saw. Identical characters.
But it's not just the content. Would you agree that there's something about the way that it appears that makes it clear. You don't need a research grant. Like for you, when you see it, you're like, oh, it's like it is there. Like it's not. No matter how much I told you, it doesn't matter. Like it's just
No,
there. Like,
it's there.
yeah.
It's plain as day. You can see it. And it's permanent. So like if I move my head down, I can't see him right now anymore. I'm not really back in that state of consciousness right now. But moving my head down, I can see up. Like there's code back behind here and above it, and there's code back down. And it's almost, for me, it's like I'm looking at something that's on the wall and behind the wall at the exact same time. So it's like later on the wall and 5 feet behind it. So and then when I try to look up, I can look up. And none of the numbers move or morph or change like we would think, like with a hallucination. Like anytime you hallucinate anything, you're going to have changes start to occur. They're going to have morphology. You're going to have, because anything that's hallucinogenic, the drug progresses. So I'm going to go through stages of this and stages of that. So things are going to change, but this is constant. And it stays in the same place. And it's as clear as day. There's no like, oh, you need to squint, you need to imagine it. You need to like work on your visualization skills a little bit more, and then like someone's whisper in your ear that, oh, imagine that, what if you could see characters in there? And just kind of suggesting these things to you. There's none of that happening. And I'm a pretty skeptical dude, and this is 100% easy to do. You don't need a microscope, you don't need an MRI, you don't need a research grant, you don't need $1 million to perform this thing. And there's no hardcore.
It's very weird, very interesting stuff. And I hope Rogan does it, because I know he's into that whole thing. I hope Eddie does it, because I know he's into that whole thing. I hope they actually experience it and actually report back, because the whole thing is just a trip. But again, you know, it kind of, and again, going back to game theory, it's like when you go too far in any game and you hit a wall. It's like when you go too far and it's like you can't get past this point. And you know, what people are starting to speculate with this whole thing is that that's where we're at. Like there's a wall here, like this, you can't go past that, and you can't go past that. Your hand just can't go through these microphones and this and that. I wonder if it could be mapped. That's cool. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Imagine actually mapping it. My first thought as he was doing it, because the laser's on him, I'm like, why doesn't somebody look into a person and see if there's something different there? You know, instead of it being on a wall, put it on someone's arm and look at that. And the thing about it is, when I first heard this, I was like, okay, I get it. But the fact that this guy did it, because like Joe Rogan said, he's like a mind control expert. So he's not taken in easily by weird stuff like this. And you can tell this guy's shook right now. Completely shook from this whole thing. So it's wild. I can't wait to talk to this guy and ask him what he thinks is beyond all of this. I was on live with him and I asked him who he thinks is behind the whole simulation. He's like, oh, you know, we've talked about this, and he didn't really want to answer. And it was just weird stuff. Just very, very weird stuff. He has a whole bunch of videos. This is not an ad for this dude. I don't know this dude. He interviews some very odd types, but yeah, he's just he's an interesting guy. So hopefully I get to interview him and actually talk to him. But I just wanted to bring that up really quick. Eddie Bravo, always bringing the best out of Joe Rogan. Shout out to Eddie Bravo. I don't know. This guy needs to be on Joe Rogan's podcast every 2 months just to bring Joe, you know, just to center him, just to ground him, you know? Very interesting stuff. Shout out to Eddie Bravo. Thank you so much for doing my podcast, Eddie. You say you watch the show. Just want to thank you again. You have no idea what it meant to me. It's one of the great things that I've gotten to do via this podcast. So thanks so much there. Now let's get into something else. Hold on. Let me make sure I can